So here I know the bottom of my leg will be, so I can go ahead and already take it down a little bit since I already know that. Along here is my details. So I want to make sure those are nice and round. There's nothing worse than a bead with a little flap that you didn't want. Alright. So you can see where it goes from, well, maybe you can't. There's a little bit of a flat here, which is not a huge deal. So, now comes my story stick. So that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to put it up here, and you notice that these are all red, and these are black. So the reason for that is this is going to get sized to 1 1/16 with a caliper, and this here and here will get a 3/4. 1 1/2, I'm already there because it was square at 1 1/2. So as long as it's just round, it's going to be close enough that your machinist caliper will be able to tell, but your eyeball won't. And that's my goal. So I'm back to these again. So I've set these at 3/4-ish. I can't, on the auger bit, I can't set it on there to get it just right. So I'll have to fine tune it at the end. And I'll show you how I do that. So here I like to give myself some room and then wiggle it back and forth where it just fits. And I stay a little bit clear of that, and then I can come in here and get rid of it. And my 1 1/16 is this one here. There we go. Now I'm back to my spindle roughing gouge. I'm going to take this down. You can kind of see on the story stick where it goes down, so I know I need to level it from about here over to here, and then that would go down there. And then I can use the square side to get rid of the waste. The nice part about these spindle roughing gouges, they're so useful. Can't open paint cans with them. One of the first times I went to a meeting, they were talking about opening paint cans with the skew. And so I went out and bought that Allen lacer, the big fat one. What's that?
It did not do you any good.
Oh my, I learned how to turn tops with that thing.
No, I mean opening a paint can.
Oh, I never tried. I spent too much money on that thing. All right. So there's my setup. This is kind of backwards, right? You hear about, oh, you should always, leave the little skinny diameter for last. Well, if you read How to Make a Windsor Chair by that guy from Maine Dunbar. I read his book, and I was just learning to turn, and he turned his cove first. That's how I learned. I'm not changing now because it works for me. So I turn my cove first. So I do get some vibration, but I always turn my cove first. And I tried thinking about not doing it, but I just end up doing it anyway. So I'm going to turn my cove, and I know it goes here. You can see on the story stick. I just want to get rid of waste. Everything that doesn't look like a toe needs to go away. It looks like a cove, it can stay. Does anyone ever get the fuzzy at the bottom? You know, right in the middle, a little line. Or you burn it because you push too hard. There we go. Yeah. What's that?
Somebody had a question.
Who's got a question?
Okay, I thought somebody had a question.
Okay. So now, with my skew, I'm going to make a little V cut along that line to keep that as a reference. And this thing gets a deep V cut because it's going to be the bird's beak. So it's going to come down some. And you just got to follow the bevel line with the long tip to make that little bird's beak. And then I'm going to make a half bead here and just connect it. And then from here, so this part is done. Now I need to make a fillet here, and then my bead here, and then like a half a V right here. So if I just follow the lines, I'm going to score that, and then rough this thing out to get my bead depth. Once I've got my bead depth, I just need to turn it. And then turn this side. I got to kind of force some of that material out of there. But as long as I put it in there, it tends to cut right out. One thing I found with the skew, if you're all timid with it, it'll control you. And then when you think you're going to control it, yeah, there's little fuzzies in there. There we go. So there's a little bit of ribbing I'm going to get rid of. Maybe not. So now, I like to start the bottom of my leg right there, and then I'm gonna finish my work here. But this way we can see my bead. I'm gonna take my fillet down just a hair. Okay. So now I'm going to do the top. The top has kind of a half cove that goes into sort of a bird's beak, and then this vase flows into it. So the reason I have two lines here, so I'm going to make a V cut, and as long as it's symmetrical, I'm going to stop at that line, at that depth. This V cut I make deeper. That's really all I'm looking for, is to go deeper. Because now I can turn my cove and then do a OG and I've got a vase. So then I'm going to turn a bead here. The top of this bead will support the bottom of the seat. So it's there for strength. But I want it to look like it's, like it's designed. So I give it that little thing in the middle, the V cut in the middle, to kind of make it similar. And I turn the bead. Clean that up. I'll turn it on this side. One thing I can guarantee, if I have a catch, it's a real thing. I'm not like just showing you how to make one. I'll try to avoid that. So here I'm going to make my cove. And there it is. So that's my base portion. So now for the bottom of the leg. So what I found is I don't size the bottom of my leg. I can get it pretty close. I'm going to make a V-cut, just a half V-cut, so a chamfer down to just the top of my teeth. So just over my teeth and my stab center. And that will give me a good line to just make a straight line with my eye when I come down and I straighten out my leg. So it also gives a nice place for the feet to sit on the floor. And now I'm going the wrong upside down on my skew because I feel like it gives me a better cut. I'm pushing into the headstock. So I seem to get a little less chatter that way. Yeah, a little bit more. Does anyone ever play around with the skew and just do different cuts for fun? Yeah? Oh, it's great fun. Because when you have a catch and you know why, well, there's power in knowledge, right? So, all right, so this one's done. How am I on time? I got one more to go. Except I'll turn this one faster. Am I good? All right. So, yeah, so normally, you could sand it at this point while it's still on the lathe, but I'll spare you the dust and not do that. So I found the edge of this little jet tailstock center, the revolving center, right about 1.5. There we go. All right. I'll move it up here. This is my working area. Get my story stick. Mark my lines. Be able to see on the story stick in front of me kind of where I'm going and how I'm getting there. Does that end up being helpful? See, I've got a little hanger on it there. Get rid of that in just a second. If I wiggle this back and forth, it won't get grabby. Tends to every now and then. Now we'll just let that go. Make this straight, kind of. It's not that critical that at this point it be super straight. It's just critical that it be somewhat in the right area, size. There we go. Finish making my lines here. And I just married this one up. Okay, so cove first. Sometimes this thing will want to skate when you enter, and really the only way around that is paying attention to how you're entering the wood. You want to enter with that flute at kind of 90 degrees to the side of the wood. It just seems to work better that way, and it doesn't skate so much. And now a V cut here. From here I'll be making my bead south towards my bird's beak. And I eyeball this measurement. So it's not, I just want to make the tip of my bird's beak just smaller than this. So, but they're all fairly close. Now half a bead. There we go. And another half. That's kind of square. Beads are supposed to be round. There we go. And the other side. Okay. Fill it. I had to look all these things up so I knew what I was talking about. Anybody know Kathleen? She's on the board. So I get volunteered to do a lot of these demos for our little club. Usually our meetings are about the size of Squim's club. And so she'll give me helpful hints, like know what you're talking about, know what it's called, don't call it a thing.
Don't call it a space.
So the whole of the tool, and I go with this thing, and she'll know it has a name. So, okay. If you're eagle-eyed, you'll notice that I didn't do this right away, like I did the last one. Sometimes I get a little carried away. So the V cut, same thing. I stop and I get to there, and this V cut is deeper. It just tends to work for me. When you do make this entry here, right, you got to do so with a purpose. Because if you get kind of scared of it, that blade will kick back on you. So when you start going in, let it give you that, let it make that little wall or whatever for your bevel to ride against. You have to have that to continue your cut. So if you just go in with just your blade and you don't engage your bevel pretty quick, you'll find out that it will fight with you. Get one more cut here. There we go. You want to cut with about the bottom third or so of your blade. Now for the top bead. And the other side. So if I get rid of the top, if I take it in pieces, it's a lot easier than trying to do one big fat cut. Doesn't always seem to work. Make sure it's symmetrical. Do my half coat. Clean up the fuzzies that I noticed. Let's take a look at it. Okay. That looks all right. So again, down here, I V-cut to the top of my teeth. And then come across here. Catch where I left off there. Maybe I shouldn't use that word.
Pick up the cup.
Huh?
Pick up the cup.
Do what?
Pick up the cup.
Pick up my cut, yes. I will pick up my cut where I left off. All right. I'm going to make this a little thinner here. I'm going to pick up my cut right about here.
The wife will remind you on the way home.
Okay. So, once my legs are kind of done, I need to make sure they fit. So I got a seat wandering around here somewhere. Okay, good. How you do? Because you never know. So you get to this point, and they don't, right? Well, you know what? I got a solution. And that's why I'd rather have them a little oversized, but I don't want them to fit too super duper tight, because I'm going to wedge them. And that wedge is going to push them out. So, let me take this down just a hair here. It felt like they were about that tight. So let's see if I got it right. One thing about these step centers is you can take it on and off while it's running. There we go. Got another leg around here somewhere.
It's back here.
Oh, trade in.
That's glued.
I gotta size that thing. So y'all know I can actually do what I'm saying I can do up there. Alright, so let's see. First we'll give it a shot. Survey says nope. A little tight. Not a problem. The solution is my skew. And kind of a guessing game. Still with that. Okay. So, now, I've got 4 letters, right? So just pretend I turned all 4. I need to curve it. So at home, I'm going to use a bandsaw. I'm going to use a bandsaw because it's fast and easy. Here, I just use a handsaw. Yes, sir?
I think my approach for slotting them, rather than waiting until I've got a round piece to try and hold on the table, while it's still my square block, I would cut and then use a cup center as a tailstock.
You could. However, I didn't do that. But I have a solution. So, because I can no longer go back, and that would work. Here, what I found is I just take the grain line, I just draw a line for myself, and I've got 2 V blocks. 2x4. Just, there we go. You see that's all it is, right? So I have, let me scoop this out. This is my solution. Can you see that? So I'm going to lay this here and this here. I'm going to clamp here. See, the gentleman would already be done because his kerfs would already be there.
Oh, John Snow, Jeff.
He was referring to you, not me.
So I'm just going to cut this kerf. And it doesn't have to be a super nice cut. Because my wedge is going to fill it. So let me do the other one. So once again, with one of my goals to make this was simple hand tools. So that way you could go home and you could make this using tools that you probably already have. Most people have one of these saws.
My place tomorrow?
What's that?
You coming to my place tomorrow?
You need a saw, sir. And no need a saw. Anyway,
I'm looking on the simple end of things.
There we go. I learned at an earlier demo to put this back on. All right. So now I have curved. So all of my legs are curved. So this device here is 3/4 inch plywood. I put some mouse pad material on it just because when I'm making some of my stools that I've finished, you know, and the wood is primarily sanded and finished, I don't want to mar it. So that's what this is. So when I set this here, it allows the legs to go through. And so what I'll do is I'll put the grain line this way. So I'm looking at the grain line, and then I'm looking at the islands of my leg. So if the grain line is going along and the islands, I'm looking at my islands, I know that my kerf goes perpendicular, is that right? Or 90 degrees to my islands. Because I want to push out against the end grain of my seat. If I push out against the grain line of my seat, I will probably split my seat when I hammer that wedge home. So if I push against the end grain, there's great strength, even in this pine, to not have that happen. So that way I can just line my islands up to each other. And this device allows me, if they need a little extra love, to let them know that I care. Put them home. So now, I just line them up square. So, if this is pretty much finished, now I'm going to glue. I'm going to put glue inside the mortises, which are the holes in the seat, and put my legs through. And you saw that most of them, they fit really easy. So now they're through, there's glue around here. I just take a paper towel, kind of take the glue off. And now I'm going to wedge them. I glue one side of the wedge. This is a Windsor chair trick. If I glue both sides of the wedge, I've got glue all around my mortise and tenon, and I've got glue on both sides of my wedge. Wood moves. I want to give it a place to move. So I glue one side of my wedge. So now when it moves, I can maintain, in theory, that glue line in the mortise. And the wood then moves against that wedge. Does that make sense? That's what they taught me in the chair class. I think Exhibit A is those 300-year-old chairs. So I'll glue one side of the wedge, hammer it home. I'm not going to hammer these all the way home because I haven't glued it. I want whoever gets this to be able to take it apart. Just take some pliers and pull it out. But it'll make that sound, thunk, 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 and then it'll go thunk. It'll be a different thunk. When you hit that different thunk, you're done. Stop. Stop hammering. Because it will, you're gone as far as you can go. Give this one more tap. So, to level the chair, or the stool, a couple different ways that you can do it. Oh, sorry, do I need to be on camera here? What I found is I have a jack plane at home. It's a 5.5, so it's about a 15-inch long sole. And I just rest it on, so I set the stool down on a flat surface and find out where does it rock. Okay, it rocks there. So if it rocks back and forth this way, those are my longer legs. Right? So I want to take the longer legs. So I grab one of them, like that. So I know I'm looking at these. Because if I don't do that, invariably I'll get the wrong ones. So I know this one, so I take my plane and I just kind of take them off. Does that make sense? I already did it to this one. And then I just keep doing that until it sits level. The other thing I can do is if it's just a little bit of rock, take some 80 grit, put it down on my flat surface, do the same, find my longer legs and just kind of rub it back and forth until it just sits nice and flat. That's how I level these. That's how I level my big stools. That's how I level my chairs. Is usually the 80 grit, it'll take stuff off. You know, if you've got a much longer, so if you've got a gap of say a 1/2 inch, so say you make something, is anyone actually going to make a stool?
Yes.
Okay, good, all right. Is anyone going to make a big stool eventually, one like chair height or taller? Come on, all right. Yeah. So, if you find that you're 1/4 to a 1/2 inch, or anything more than 1/4, then use the pencil trick. Take a little piece of wood, maybe the size of one of these wedges, 1/8 inch, 3/16. Take your pencil to it and just draw a line around all the legs. So as long as that gap between the pencil lead is a little bit bigger or equal to the biggest gap on that flat surface, you draw around, just flip it over, saw it, and now you're back to sandpaper. Because now you've just got that little bit to take off, and you can take that with sandpaper.
So Rick, how do you deal with the tenons now? Now they're wedged, they're glued, how do you deal with them?
Okay, so once they're glued up and the glue is dry, I'm going to take some masking tape, lay it across, just cross hatch it, so those tenons are sticking out. Take my flush cut saw, it's from Lowe's, it's the Irwin brand, dovetail saw, and it's a pole saw. And I just cut it off so it's just a little bit, and it's just a little bit proud of just some final sanding. On the wedges, one of the things you need, if you're going to use contrasting wood, and it's like walnut with like some really nice grain, it may snap on you, and then you're like, oh, what do I do now, right? I got this half wedge stuck in there, glue's everywhere. I don't know. Start hammering more little slivers in there. Or, remember this and don't start with that wood. Find some straight grain, even if it's walnut. But ash, maple is going to be strong. You want those wedges to be strong for when you hammer them in, because they do serve a purpose.
So if you want it contrasting, you could just dye maple.
You could, yeah. But I've had good luck with walnut when it's straight. And I take care when I'm hammering it. You know, you really got to make sure you hammer it straight. So if you hammer it at an angle, walnut and some of those woods have snapped on me. And I've ended up taking the snap piece and really giving it some hammering to get it past that broken part. High glue, it's reversible. So, did I skip anything that someone wonders about?
we have a request from the audience that you sign off of the stool.
Sure.
You're giving to Annie.
I will sign both because I don't plan on taking either one home.
Send the word.
So I was telling him, just in case I messed up, I brought some, I think it's 80 or 100 grit. I was going to kind of sneak that in there if I had really narked something. So yes, I will. Both of these can go to the club. And
They will
all I
be
got.
Christmas presents.
what's that?
They will be Christmas lottery tickets.
Oh yeah, and make some for if you got grandkids, especially little toddlers. Yeah. They're hard to break. We've had some of the neighbor grandkids. They go sideways and they start jumping on it. One of them did break, but they're fairly stout. So
So you have the instructions online?
Oh,
the AEW had them. Did you?
They're in the app. If you have the app that came with the symposium, and you go to presenters and you go to your name, and then go to that presentation.
I can just email that to you. Because
Yeah.
I had given them that.
It might be easier.
Okay, yeah, I'll email it. It's just step by step. Does anyone get Wood Turnings from England magazine? I think last year this was in it. And that's what I'll email her, is just that step by step. That way if you forget what to do, that's how I think, is one follows 0 and 2 and 3. So that's how it's laid out.
Math.
It's a map.
It's math.
It is math too. Yeah, you guys, a little geometry tonight. No one whined about it. Thank you.
Well, Jeff did, but he was pretty quiet about it.